Next is Mr. Crenshaw for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to unequivocally condemn in the strongest possible terms the actions of the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Just last week, referring to her obstruction of bipartisan, targeted relief bills that we could have voted on this floor, she said, quote, "Don't characterize what we did before as a mistake. This was not a mistake, it was a decision," end quote. When asked what had changed, why she is finally coming to the table on COVID relief, her response was simple: a new president. We've known for months that Speaker Pelosi was holding the American people hostage for political gain. I've said it, my colleagues have said it. While Americans suffered under unscientific, foolish lockdowns, Pelosi withheld relief for political purposes. Not policy purposes, but political purposes. But we now have a full admission. She said the quiet part out loud. This was never about what was best for the American people, never about honest policy disagreement. It was about preventing President Trump from getting any credit. It was about politics. Speaker Pelosi made a simple calculation. She bet that if she could keep Congress from reaching a deal on COVID relief, that would hurt President Trump and Republicans and give her more power. Even when members of her own party asked her to bring common sense, standalone, bipartisan relief measures to the House floor that would easily become law, she refused. She would say over and over again that nothing is better than something. And she was being honest. She honestly believed that nothing was better than something, but better for who? Not for the American people, that's for sure. She believed that nothing was better than something for her and her party. It's hard to imagine a more awful and heartless strategy. And what's worse, Speaker Pelosi does all of this while people in her home state suffer from unscientific, unconstitutional lockdowns the Democrat leaders in California are forcing upon their citizens. These lockdowns are not based in science. They never have been. Study after study shows that they yield little, if any, benefits, but they impose extreme costs on the small businesses suffering under them. You know what else? The Democrat leaders making these executive orders, they know this too, because they're violating their own guidelines. The Speaker of the House couldn't even let a pesky little lockdown get in the way of a haircut appointment, even though those same lockdowns destroy the lives of her constituents. We've all seen the heartbreaking video of Angela Marsden, the owner of Pineapple Hill Saloon and Grill in Los Angeles. Everyone should have to watch that testimony as Democrats shut down her outdoor dining while a Hollywood studio sets up shop right next door. She represents millions of Americans suffering who have taken note of the hypocrisy of these lockdowns, of the double standards, as big businesses can operate freely while small businesses are shamed into submission and told wrongly that they are the ones who must sacrifice to slow the spread, that the demise of the business they spent their whole lives building is the price to pay because if it just saves one life. But this is unscientific nonsense, and we all know it. Study after study shows outdoor dining is safe, that outbreaks are not occurring because of our small businesses, our gyms, our restaurants, our salons, and yet these small businesses are in the crosshairs of cowardly politicians across the country. This madness has to stop. This arbitrary application of executive orders is deeply, deeply unconstitutional. Justice Gorsuch recently stated, "There is no world in which the Constitution tolerates color-coded executive edicts that reopen liquor stores and bike shops, but shutter churches, synagogues, and mosques." Americans have had enough. It is time to stand up against the hypocrisy of these so-called leaders deliberately harming the citizens they claim to represent, and to condemn the deeply partisan actions of the Speaker of this House. I yield back.
Senator Kennedy from Louisiana is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Madam Secretary and Mr. Chairman, for being here. Madam Secretary, when you were here last, and we all look forward to you coming, I asked you to tell me what you thought inflation would be at the end of this year. and you told me 2%. Do you still stand by that prediction?
Clearly, inflation this year is going to be above 2%. Just the experience so far this year makes that clearly true. But I think we are seeing monthly inflation rates taper off.
Yes, ma'am. What do you think it'll be at the end of the year, if not 2%?
Probably closer to 4%.
Okay.
And
Fine.
that's already almost must be the case based on what's happened this year. But in my estimation, there are the types of supply bottlenecks that the economy.
I don't want to
is
spend too much
experiencing.
time on inflation, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have so little time, and I talk slowly. What party controls the House?
The Democrats,
What party controls the Senate?
the Democrats,
I believe we can agree that President Biden is a Democrat.
I believe.
Okay. Senator Schumer, who's a Democrat, and
Correct.
my friend, controls the Senate floor. And he can raise the debt ceiling by just amending the budget resolution, can't he?
It's possible that that could be done.
Yes, ma'am. So why didn't he do it? Why don't y'all do it?
Because
and then
this
we
is-
don't. Let me just
because
finish.
this is
Let me
the-
just finish. Why don't y'all just do it and then we don't have this fight?
Because
Why
this-
do you insist on doing it the hard way?
Because it's very important to recognize that raising the debt ceiling is about paying bills that Congresses
I know,
have
but I just
incurred
gave
in
you
the
a way-
past.
I
And
just-
it's
I don't
a
wanna get off
shared
the subject.
responsibility.
So why
And
don't you? I agree
Democrats
with that.
have-
So why don't you just amend the budget resolution?
Democrats have provided votes in the past when both houses of Congress were controlled by Republicans, when the Republican Party was in the middle of reconciliation. 2017 is a good example, and Democrats pitched in to do their duty to raise the debt ceiling.
But I know all that, and and I appreciate your perspective. But let me ask you again. There's a real simple solution. Why don't y'all just amend the budget resolution? It just takes 50 votes by my Democratic friends and the vice president. Why don't you just do that? Problem solved. Done. Easy peasy. Finished. Let's go have a cocktail.
Well, it will be up to the leadership of Congress to
Were you going to recommend that
decide
he do
on.
that?
We will confer with them on what is the best strategy to move forward.
It's not often. I haven't been around this place as long as you have. But it's not often around here that we have a problem that has an easy solution. And this is a real easy solution. And I get politics. I understand why politically you folks want to have Republican fingerprints on the spending fiscal knife. I get that. But do you really, is your politics so important that you want to gamble here on the
Want to make
sovereign
sure
debt of the
that
United
debt-
States when you have a very, very simple solution that you refuse to take?
I want to see that the debt ceiling is raised. As I've said, I believe it would be catastrophic not to do so, but I equally believe that deficits have been run under both Democratic and Republican administrations. It's important to recognize that, and that means that paying the bills for those deficits is a shared responsibility, and it should not be the responsibility
I agree
of
with
any
that.
one party.
Very eloquently put. But it's a fact, isn't it? That you and your folks just want Republican fingerprints on the Democrats' effort to tax, spend, and regulate America into Europe. Now, it's your prerogative to do that. But this is all about the administration's desire to have Republican fingerprints on it and later call it bipartisan. And you know that, Madam Secretary, with all the respect I can muster, and so do the American people. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Kennedy, I rarely speak between witnesses, but I wonder if Secretary Yellen takes you up on the offer to go get a cocktail, if you would pay or you'd skip out on paying the bill and expect Secretary Yellen to pay. Senator Menendez is recognized from New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had not intended to pursue this line of questioning, but I must say my distinguished friend and colleague from Louisiana always sparks my interest. Republican